Well, I normally introduce this show by pumping up the guest, but I need to be honest with you. After nearly 10 years of being the number one podcast going around in sport, there's another podcast called New Heights with the Kelsey brothers, and this week they had a guest that knocked us to number 2, which was shattering. They had Taylor Swift, which is hard to top, but I have topped that because we're going to get back to number 1 with this man because he is a unique individual, one of the more interesting people I've ever met in broadcasting, and he's here to knock off Taylor Swift. Dwayne Russell, the pipe, welcome to the Howie Games. I'll set you a big task,
Yes.
but I think you can do it.
No, better looking and sing better, no doubt, and bigger. The Dwaynies, I don't have the Swifties, but no, not quite. But thanks for inviting me on the number 1 podcast. What a pleasure it is.
Number 2 now. Number 2.
Well,
you need to take us back to number 1.
For a couple of weeks until you get next week. You'll have Jordan on, and you'll be back to
but
number
mate,
1.
once you go to 2, then the slide is to 3, and then you're 5, and then you're out. You call, you get on, mate. Welcome to the Howie Games, and you've brought in a T-shirt for me. I see.
Bit self-indulgent, but
no, I love it.
No, well, most of the people that come on your show have got a book to sell, so here I am with self-indulgent T-shirt on and a book to sell
right now.
Again, so if you're listening to this anywhere, Killing for Sport is the name of the book, so I'll promote that straight off the top. And if you like fiction, that's the one you've got to go out and ask your bookshop person for. Oh, look at you.
There you go.
Love
I've got my
Thank
Hello
you.
Dwayne's World
Thank
T-shirt
you.
on.
Beautiful.
I'm good to go. You just mentioned a book, Killing for Sport. Now, most people are going to think this is autobiography about your life, etc., or it's going to be a sport book. This is one of the many things I found fascinating about you. This is a novel, Dwayne, and I can't wait to read it. So you, with everything you've got going on, have written a novel.
Fiction novel.
When does this start in your mind? How long has it taken?
20-odd years ago it started.
20
probably.
years
When
ago.
I got the flick from Geelong, I started to sort of think in my mind, what am I going to do next? I was always good at English at school, so year 11, 12, it kind of got me through school. I applied to be a trainee journalist at the Adelaide Advertiser. They didn't let me in. But I've always believed that I had the ability to write, and I used to write columns for the Sunday Age and various newspapers. And then it started to brew in my mind. I'm a storyteller. My kids will tell you, if you ask them, I can't tell a story without putting mayo on it. So
Perfect for this show.
You and I are in the business of broadcasting, which is essentially telling stories. You're telling the story of the picture that's in front of you. I've just told the story of the picture in my mind of this international art fraud extravaganza, which takes us to Paris and London and Amsterdam and the French Riviera. And it's about 2 characters, Sarah and Jackson. So it starts with their wedding, high society wedding. Jackson doesn't turn up for some reason, and it takes us backwards and forwards as to why, their relationship, and it ends in this big sort of art fraud thriller.
Killing for Sport. How do you write a book? From when you sat down in front of your typewriter or computer and wrote the... where do you start?
You just get ideas in your head as to just the characters start to develop in your head, and it takes you away from the world. So it's a bit like if you're watching a movie, the movie takes you away from the world. I can sit in a quiet space and take my head into my own world and just write the things that are evolving in my own world. You and I also spend a lot of time in the car, travelling up and back from Geelong.
The Westgate.
So what do you think about in the hours that you sit in the car, Howie? See, I don't listen to the radio. I just think of stuff. I think of storylines. I think of ridiculous stuff that might happen or might not happen in the book that I've been able to write. So.
I like the fact that it's not wasted time for you in the car. I try and be quite disciplined with time management. So when I'm driving to work, so if I'm going to the footy, I've dedicated that time to work and phone calls or thinking in relation to the podcast, etc. The way home at 11 o'clock at night, I allow myself then to listen to a podcast that I enjoy. So that's the way I split it up.
So I listen to my own mind on the way home.
It's a frightening thought.
Think of stuff. And some of it comes out in my commentary. Sometimes people think, well, that's just ridiculous. What's he going on with that for? But it sounded like a really good idea to me at the time. So, I do listen to I'd listen to a lot of music. So I'm into that as well. But I'm more I'll get into a band or something specifically at the time just to take my mind away from what's happened during the day.
So how long did it take to write? And then how do you get a publisher?
Yeah.
And then Do they start editing your work and it breaks your heart? Like, what's the process?
So it took me about 10 years to write, or 8 years to write. So it's been a long time in the process. My wife's probably read it about 25 times from the point where it was just a ramble and it was no good at all.
What's your wife's name?
Lisa.
And she stuck with you through the book process?
She has,
Must be a good read.
Believe it or not. But she's a big book reader, so I bounced off her a lot. There was times when I was trying to write it as if it was a Bob Dylan song, make every line spectacular. And in the end, it's a bit like commentary. It has to flow. It has to engage people. It can't be over the top or overdone. But every now and then, it's got to punch in the nose. And, that's the way I've tried to write, the same as we commentate.
Yep.
It has to be different speeds through it, but it's a fairly pacey novel. So it's been a long time in the writing. There's been a lot of rewrites, and I've had a couple of people to be able to bounce off at the time. Then you go to publishers, and you have sub-publishers say, this is no good, or this is not for us, or we don't need this particular kind of thing. And you've got to be prepared to put yourself out there and get knocked back. And I went to a firm, and, Kate at a firm has been great. When I gave it to her, it was 40,000 words. She'd said, we'd love it to be 50,000. She asked for more on some of the characters, so I've added more on some of the characters, some more depth. Now I'm taking us deeper into their lives. So I did have the opportunity to speak to the publishers at a firm and get an understanding as to how to make it better, broader, deeper, and that's what I did. And now it's in bookshops.
I can't wait to read it. So I would imagine this is going to be a two-part process. You will get way more publicity than a typical author. One, because you've got your own media channels, but two, because you're a well-known person. It's like, wow, this football commentator has brought out a book, which is going to get you extra publicity. The flip side of that, living in Australia, in the negative world, unfortunately, which we operate, is, well, how's this bloke going to write a book? He's a football commentator.
Yeah.
So that's get balanced up, I guess.
You and I are in the same business. If you can't take the criticism, you don't do it. So you've got to have a thick skin. There's going to be people that think it's no good. But, people know me in, southern states, but that's not going to help it sell in America.
No.
So
we're going global with this?
Well, if it's any good, it will hopefully sell internationally because it's an international thriller.
That's so cool.
It's not set in Australia. Well, it's sort of set partly in Australia, but mainly set in London and Paris. So, if it's going to be any good, it can't just be sold to people who know me in Melbourne.
Okay.
So we'll see how good it is. I'll find out whether I'm any good. That's the beauty of it. You got to put yourself out there. Maybe I'm at an age where I've got a thicker skin and I'm prepared to put myself out there and be told it's no good. But I'm hoping it's good. And if the publishers believed it was good, so I've got faith that they know what they're talking about.
Putting yourself out there and taking the criticism is an interesting one because you work for SEN and at midday you come on, 3 hours, welcome to Dwayne's World, you call, you get on. So I think you must have an unbelievable understanding of what is driving the thrust and the heartbeat of the city because you get these calls daily and you get the SMSs. What's it like when you get the SMSs and they're saying, Dwayne, you're a knob? I presume that comes.
Every day.
Would have to come.
Every day.
So how have you learned to deal with that?
Well, if one person sends a text in and says you're a knob, what you said was ridiculous, then it's just one text message. If 25 people say you're a knob and what you said is ridiculous, then you start to think, well, maybe
I'm a knob and it was ridiculous.
No, it's good because every Monday I'll get the critique of my commentary from the weekend.
Do you?
Yeah, so there's things that I got wrong. It hurts when you know they're right.
Yes.
And occasionally they are. But,
does it hurt?
Well, it doesn't because you need that understanding of a reset that you got that wrong. And I'm from the old direct feedback world. My father, direct feedback. When I played for Port Adelaide, direct feedback. And I can tell you stories about the feedback world was never tougher than playing for Port Adelaide in those days.
Okay.
So I kind of like feedback. Sometimes when it's extra nasty or it seems really personal, you have to just let it wash away and say, well, he obviously doesn't like me or they don't like me. That's okay. Not everyone's going to like you. All of that does help you refine your commentary to the point that you got to get your cadence right. You got to get your light and shade and speed and there's a balance there, and you know, I'd love your balance in the way you call the cricket, especially. You know, it drags me in. I might not necessarily be interested in the cricket itself, but I become interested in the banter. So there's a twofold thing happening because not all sport is entertaining the whole way through. So there's a stage where the commentator's entertaining style becomes an important part of it. It's not the main part of it because the live action is obviously the main part. But, you know, I've tuned into a lot of your cricket broadcasts and thought, I'm just hanging around here for a while because I like where they're going with this.
Well, I get to work with some when Kerry O'Keefe winds up, it's hard not to tune in. So you take, you know, over 3 hours, what percentage of your show would be calls?
45 calls a day.
Okay, 45 calls a day.
If I take more than that, I haven't given people enough time to have their say.
Right.
If I take less than that, then I feel like I haven't engaged the audience enough. So 45 is about the number.
It's fly by to the seat of your pants, though.
It is.
Because you have some unbelievably intelligent people on. You have some extremely passionate people on. You have some people that are what my wife would call the drongos come on. You get the full microcosm of society every day. How do you deal with because you have a show where you don't know what's coming?
Yeah, and you get some callers who might not necessarily have gone all the way through year 12 in college, but they love their sport as much as you love
Passion.
it. And sometimes it takes them longer to make their point. So you give them time and you think, yeah, they know their footy. They know their sport. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I do get some very intelligent callers who might actually say it in ways with big, long words that I can't quite understand sometimes as well. And sometimes you got to admit you're wrong. It's a beautiful thing to be able to talk to your audience and understand what the big story of the day is every day. And to be honest, when you're not on air, you get this relevance deprivation where you feel like, I want to have my say on that. So it does become a little addictive, and I get that relevance deprivation if I'm off air for a few weeks.
And what do you do when dudes ring up and just butcher your name and get your name wrong? Because I love your show,
the fun of it.
And it makes me laugh.
Yeah,
when blokes call you Wayne or Shane or whatever they call you all sorts of things.
Yeah, I feel privileged that I can be that person for people, and I feel privileged that they take the time to pick up their phone and dial the number. I mean, it takes a little bit of effort to say, okay, I'm going to ring this guy.
My word, it does.
So that's the fun of it. And look, talkback's not like I invented talkback.
No,
it's been around for...
but you do it beautifully.
Well, I give people an opportunity for 2 hours to actually have a say. And I think that's something that's probably been lost in radio a bit because... And I worked 5 years for the ABC. I did a traineeship at the ABC and they knocked a lot of rough edges off me and it was great, the things I learned at the ABC. But at the ABC, I learned that here is the stuff that we think is relevant today and here is the stuff that we should be broadcasting today because we believe it's the right stuff. And then I went to the 3RW, commercial radio, and I learned something completely different, and that is you have to broadcast what the people are talking about, not what you think might be the most important thing. I just do that in a sports sense. I mean, in the end, I might think this is the biggest topic of the day, and no one rings on it. And then I get 8 calls about something completely different. I think, well, that's what people are talking about. So I just go in that direction. So quite often the show goes in a direction that a caller takes it in as opposed to what I might think is the big relevant topic.
There's a bloke that plays cricket for Australia that doesn't play golf, right? And all his teammates play golf. So this bloke, he's a wicketkeeper of great renown. His name is Alex Carey, and he is obsessed with radio. And when he came on the show, this is what he had to say about what he loves listening to.
I actually love Dwayne's World.
Do you ever ring in?
No, I don't ring in.
That's a promise. You ring in. I called the footy with him. I called the footy with him last Saturday. He's a joy to work with that man.
And I don't know why I like it.
So you listen to talk back?
I probably don't get much out of it, except I just the way he answers the phone calls, the listeners, breaks up my day really well. So my day looks like SEN in the morning.
So this is a man that travels the world.
Yeah.
He's listening to Dwayne's World in Jamaica or in St Kitts or at Lord's or in Durban. It touched me how excited he was to talk about your show, Dwayne.
Yeah, I'm flattered by that. I'm very flattered by it. But I kind of, in a way, understand it because some people like an Alex Carey want to know what real people are talking about. And I don't filter it. I don't say, well, I'm not talking about that, so this caller X doesn't get on.
Yep.
You call, you do get on. So if you do
call,
want
you get on. There's the
that's the
tagline.
tagline. And Alex obviously is one of those people who wants to know what people are talking about. And that's what the show does. It tells people every day what the real person in the street, man or woman, young or old, is talking about today. So that's the snapshot we give because I don't filter the calls. I mean, I might cut a few off. There's a few things that can't go to air, as you know, with a podcast. But apart from that, it's freedom to talk about what is the topic of the day. So I'm really flattered by that. He's a gun.
Yeah, he is.
He's a guru, and he's a really nice guy.
He's
so
a lovely
if there's
man.
anybody I'd like to, hey, Alex, you call, you get on.
2 quick questions before we get into your family history and your football career. So we were downstairs and you had 2 coffees and then you ordered a takeaway coffee. It's now about 9 a.m. So when I've been in your presence, you're on your 3rd latte. What's your number for the day, Dwayne?
I might go with a 5 or a 6, but you had tea first thing in the morning. I might get to the point where about 4 o'clock I'm starting to get onto the tea. So, an Earl Grey or an English breakfast.
But you're a 5 or a 6 coffee man? Yeah,
rarely a peppermint tea, but I'm sort of late in the afternoon. Yeah, so coffee early to get myself going. But I also want to get my brain going. So if I'm talking to you with this, then I want to have my brain going. But if I'm just waking up of my own accord and I'm slowly working into the day and I don't really need my brain going until about 1, then I won't coffee up until about 1 o'clock. Or if I've got a night game, I'll try and hold back
late.
and, you get into
We'll
the
get
sugar
to
late.
some of your dining habits when you call football. The other thing, you and I both have one natural enemy in the world, and it's a large enemy at the moment. That's the Westgate Bridge. So we were going to have a coffee, and then you had 2 and then got another one at 8 a.m. because you said, no, I need to get to town early because I can't be sitting on the bridge. So let's not give away the location. So you fire in early this morning. You got a big day. You got 3 hours. You got this. You got 3 hours of Dwayne's World. Then you got to go and call the footy tonight on Fox, and you get home at after midnight tonight. But you are a napper, Dwayne.
So I will.
This is one of the other things that intrigues me about you.
I'll lay in the back seat of the Range Rover and just put my feet up.
Parked around Melbourne somewhere.
Usually near the Botanic Gardens. So quite often, well, if it's a summer's day and it's a beautiful morning, I might do a walk lap of the tan. The last thing I want to be doing is spending 2 hours stationary in traffic in the car. So I'd rather just be able to fly up at the normal speed.
Have a nap. Or
at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is tradies. The utes obviously are allowed to go, 110 or 112 are they? I'm not sure what the rules are.
Mine doesn't, Dwayne.
No,
Mine doesn't.
It seems like some of them do
the
have that
Bowen
allowance.
brewing vehicle does not.
That's right.
Just one more on your radio show. So you have the ability technically to sometimes do it at home. I just want straight answers, yes or no, because there's urban legends around you of great renown and we've got to tick a few off. Have you done your show on your treadmill?
I did one show on the treadie, just a walk speed, yes. But it has to be at a speed where I can't get that elevator. I can't have my heart rate over 120 because it starts to come through. So, yes, I've done one in the treadmill, and, yes, I've done a show in the spa. So that is true. I have. But not with the bubbles on because so you can hear the bubble.
Just describe it for me. You got your headphones on.
I've got the board shorts on, sun shining, rashy, and I've heated the spa up to about 38. And I've turned the bubbles off so no bubbles can be heard. So, yes, I have done a show in the
I love it. Right. Your family history. Very few guests have done this, and I appreciate this enormously. You sent me a few notes.
Yep.
And they're notes that Tom and I wouldn't be able to access about you because this is stuff that some hasn't been talked about. Your family history, I read it and it fascinated me. Just run people through a little bit of your family history.
So my grandmother's still alive. She's 98 this year. She's in a home and she was a teenager in the war.
Second World War.
Yes, Second World War. And she was virtually working as a farmer girl on essentially the Poland-German border during the war.
Okay.
And she grew up in the forests and working the farm. So, yeah, she was a teenager back in those days. And about 20 years ago, I took a tape recorder to her house and actually asked her to tell me the story of the war. And so for an hour, I got her telling me the story of what it was like back then. Because I had...
You have that recorded?
I do have that on recording. Wow. And I have no understanding of what the war was like. And soon we're going to have no one that actually lived it with us. It'll only be stories told. So I've got her story told. But when...
What's her name?
She's my Lydia.
Lydia. She's your ummi.
Yes.
Right.
So Lydia Zalidis, or Lydia Doulis as she was back then.
Yep.
So she was a teenager. She essentially, when the war ends, Russia takes over that part of the world.
So she's Polish?
No, she's German.
She's German.
But she's on that border.
Okay.
And Russia virtually takes over that point. And the Germans are obviously disliked.
Oh, because the Russians come in from the east.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. So she is working for the Russians essentially at that time, working the farms and growing vegetables essentially because she can do that. She gets pregnant to a Russian soldier.
Right.
He would be in immense trouble if he was found out to have got one of the German workers pregnant, teenage workers pregnant.
How old is she at this stage?
She's, I think, 18 at this stage. So he then helps her escape away to the west. So it's essentially, you know, there were a lot of people still kind of captive in their area because of the soldiers being in control of, they took over farmhouses. So all those people that owned the farms at the time had to get out because they were taken over. And a lot of this stuff I've only known through her explanation. So it's her way of explaining to me what happened in her eyes, as opposed to, you know, someone else would live the same thing and maybe tell it a different way. But she got pregnant to the Russian. He helped her escape because he needed to get her away as well.
Escape to where?
To the west.
To the west.
So he helped her get on a train essentially to Dresden, but helped her map out how she could get away to the west.
Is the wall built at this stage?
No.
Right.
So the wall is about to be put up.
Okay.
And she has to get to the west to get back to her family, pregnant. So he told her, don't stick to the highways, don't stick to the roads. You're going to have to cross through the paddocks and through the forests to get away because you'll get captured and brought back and you'll be put back on the farm.
Summer or winter?
To work for us in the winter.
In the winter.
So in the middle of a snowstorm, she's walking through with another girl that was on the same train to Dresden, who was also trying to get back to the west, but she stuck to the roads. Naomi went through the forest and the land, and in knee-high snow, she just couldn't cope anymore. She sat down on a tree stump and said, that's it, I'm going to die. She prayed that something would happen. The snow stopped, and she got back to the west, amazingly, pregnant. And she lives, and my mother is born, obviously. So if not for her getting through all that, then I wouldn't be here. So it's an amazing story that she was able to get through. I could tell you lots of stories about what happened during the war. I'd rather not because, you know, it's horrific stuff. It is really horrific stuff. And being a German at that time, or being anywhere in Europe at that time, any nationality would have been horrific. So
how does your mum end up in Australia?
So my mum's 12. My grandmother has friends that have come from Germany to Australia, and they send her a letter. And, hey, there's this guy here. He's Latvian. He's got a chateau in Australia. Do you want to come out and join him? It's not a chateau. It's a house in Royal Park, just down the road from Albert Oval, essentially. It's a little house in a street in Australia.
It's a small chateau.
No, but she gets this letter from a friend. Why don't you come over? His name's Harry. She says, oh, maybe. So Harry sends her a letter with a photo and the boat fare for two, for my grandmother and her 12-year-old daughter to come to Australia and live with him. And she says yes, off the back of a letter from him and a photo.
Kidding.
So she comes all the way to Australia with her daughter.
So this is about, 1960?
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. So she comes all the way to Australia.
On spec?
Yes, on the photo and a recommendation.
Must be a good photo of Harry.
And lives with Harry and they live happily ever after. Essentially, it's
Do they get married?
Yes. They have another daughter, so my mother and my auntie, they're half-sisters. So, yeah, it's a crazy story. So I grew up in their household quite a bit because my mother was 17 when she had me. So I grew up quite a bit with my grandmother. I could speak German when I was a younger kid, can't anymore. I didn't go on with it, but I'm forever in debt to her for being able to go through what she did.
So then there's more to this story.
Right.
So we were just discussing this downstairs. The Beatles arrive in South Australia,
64.
do they? 64. Now, people are going to think, well, what's Howie talking about here? What's the Beatles got to do with our man, you get on Dwayne Russell?
Probably too much information, but I was conceived when the Beatles were in town in Adelaide. My father and my mother go on a date. I hope my mother doesn't mind, but she gets pregnant. And I'm going to be handed up for adoption. So she gets sent out of home because you can't have, pregnant young.
So how old's your mum?
17.
This is the excitement of the Beatles being in town.
Yeah. Well, 18 when she has me.
Right.
And
what did you say you're going to get put up for adoption?
Well, yeah. And in the end, my father says, mother has me, says I can't give this boy up. And my father says I'll stick around. And then, so I'm born Shane.
So you're
Shane
born
Zelitis.
Shane Zelitis?
Yes, that's right. Shane Doulis, as was my German name. And then they stick together, my mother and father, and get married and live happily ever after. And
so your father's...
My father's passed.
Is his surname is Russell?
Yeah, my son. Yeah. So when they married, they changed my name to Dwayne. Yeah. So he decided Dwayne was a better name. I don't know why.
So you were born Shane?
Yes.
And your father?
Yes.
What's your dad's name?
John.
John Russell?
Yep.
He said, no, we're going to go with Dwayne.
Yeah. So they go with Dwayne. So that's how I became Dwayne Russell. So I'm forever in debt to my mother as well and my father for not giving me up and sticking with me. And
so there was a consideration to give you up?
Yeah.
Wow.
But my mum, I had a beautiful childhood. I mean, it's amazing when you got, there's essentially no money, but a lot of love. I grew up in one of those households where you didn't realise what rich was.
No
you
money?
just thought you were happy.
No money?
Good. Yeah, well, housing trust. My father was a housing trust raised kid.
What's
in
housing
Kilburn.
trust mean?
Well, government housing, yeah. In Kilburn, which is a pretty well-known part of Adelaide. And then my father was an abattoirs worker, so he ended up working at the abattoirs, and we moved out to, initially the abattoirs cottages, which is what they called them, for the abattoirs workers to work in first, and then to a place in Paraka.
So where's Paraka?
North, past Jepp's Cross, on the way to Salisbury, on the way to Elizabeth, on the way to Port Augusta, so essentially, or the way to Port Lincoln, if you keep going.
So when does footy first cross your path?
My father was a footballer. My grandfather was a footballer. My grandfather played for North Adelaide for a couple of years, but my grandfather was a bit of a legend at Kilburn. My father played for Kilburn. I saw him play a few games for Paraka as well. So footy was all my family knew. That was just what we were. The Russells were footballers.
So when he was playing, were you like going in the change rooms and things like that?
Yeah, but more, he had a lot of knee issues, and I did too. I ended up having 11 knee ops. So my father had knee issues as well. So it was obviously something that I've ended up with. But, so I was going to watch him. We lived our lives in the footy club. That was after the game. We're at the club. My father would come and watch me train at Paraka on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. So
Paraka what? The Paraka what? What
under 10s, under 12s,
and what
under
is it?
14s,
The Paraka
under
Blues,
16s.
the Paraka
Bulls.
Paraka Bulls.
Yes.
What was the kit for Paraka?
It was the big bull on the front. It was a great jumper. It looked
Sounds
fantastic.
like a good jumper.
Yes.
What
exactly.
colours?
Red and blue.
Are they still going, the Paraka
Yeah,
Bulls?
absolutely. No big bull on the front, just all sponsorship.
Okay.
Yes.
So your dad, was he a encouraging father as football goes?
He was my hero.
Was he?
Oh, yeah. He took me everywhere. So whatever he did, he took me. If we went rabbiting, we'd go rabbiting together in the middle of the night, set the traps, and back in those days when you could do that. If we went dragging the net, or if we because he was a bit of a scrounger as well.
Dragging the net, was that fishing?
Yeah. We'd go mushrooming, we'd go crabbing with the rakes.
Got a bad reputation nowadays, mushrooming.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But I can identify pretty well. But don't trust me, I'm not going to bring your lunch in. But I'm pretty good with identification because I learned that from Dad.
Right.
But if he could skin anything. I mean, we'd have chickens in the back, and I'd have to hold the head down. All that kind of stuff back in the old days with the axe.
When he would remove the head from the rest of the body.
So back when we're talking, early 70s. So it's a different world back then. But he was a butcher as well. So I'd go with him on Saturdays to the butcher shop, and him and the local butcher would make sausages for about 2 hours, and that was before we'd go and watch North Adelaide play. So, yeah, he was worked with the slaughterman, but he was virtually a meat carter for the abattoirs back then, carting big sides of beef or big sides of, lots of different meat cuts to the butcher shops.
What were you like as a junior footballer?
I was good. Yeah, so I always played 2 years above my age group. So I played I played in the under 12s when I was 10, under 14s when I was 12, because I was bigger than all the other kids, and Dad made me play with the bigger kids. I was good back then. I was probably one of those guys who, because you dominate early, because you're big, you get to play against men at the age of 18, 19, and you realise, hang on. And that's where I was good in the sandful. But I came to the VFL and realised everyone's as good as me, if not better.
Well,
that was the beauty of it.
Let's not skip ahead too far, Dwayne. Right. So your old man, he's working at the abattoirs.
Yep.
You were telling me a story downstairs about him coming to see you train one day.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to cry. That was pretty much the rule in our household.
No crying?
No crying. And he saw me crying one day at training. I'd fallen over doing circle work, and he was in the
How old are you?
12.
12.
Yeah, and I said, I think I've broken my leg. And he said, well, no, you're fine. And if you're going to cry, you can walk home. So I wasn't going to get a lift home that night. A friend of a friend took me home.
So your dad said, I'm not taking you home?
No, he didn't really like the fact that I was looking like I was a bit soft. So when he got home, my mum convinced him to take me up to the Modbury Hospital. Yeah, leg broken. So it's all, but,
different time?
I would not want that story to be the story of my father, because there's 1,000 great stories I could tell.
Sounds like
that were just beautiful, loving, fantastic father stories. That was one where he got it wrong. That's okay. He puts his hand up and admits it. But, I could tell you the million different hugs I got. But I would watch a quarter time, half time, three-quarter time of any game of footy I play, whether it's for Geelong or Port Adelaide. I would know where he stood at quarter time. And if I looked over to him at quarter time, he'd either go like that with thumb up or go thumb down. Sometimes I'd look over at three-quarter time and he wasn't there. I don't think he'd ever went home, but I think he moved position to let me know that he might have gone home.
So he was a motivating force for
absolutely. Because, our whole week revolved around footy. They poured all their energy in. I didn't have to go to school when I was a kid. If I was having a kick of the footy.
What do you mean you didn't have to go to school?
So when I was a younger person, and I grew up with Craig Bradley. So Craig and I played under 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s together, went to Bracket Primary together, went to Enfield High together. But brothers would come round, some mornings on the way to school. And it was back in the days where you could get your licence at 16. And so brothers 2 years older than me would drive and we'd go to school. And it'd be 9:30 and my mum would say, you guys going to school today? And brothers would say, no, we're not going today. We're going to have a kick. And mum would say, you want some toasted sandwiches to take? So they added up all my days absent in year 11, and I was absent for a total of a term.
Wow.
But we were just footy obsessed. My family, it was all about playing well on the weekend and what they could do to help me play well on the weekend. So the essence of it was, if it got to the weekend and I didn't try my hardest, then I'd let them down a bit.
I see.
So it was about trying. It wasn't about dominating. It was about trying. If I ran my guts out and couldn't get a kick, well, it was just one of those days. But if I didn't try, that was a different story. And my dad would, on a Friday afternoon, Enfield High would play, and brothers and I'd be, playing for Enfield High. And we won the Ampol Cup in South Australia, best high school. And we'd play at all the big schools as well. We'd play at the grammar schools and we'd go there and they're all in school uniforms. And, I didn't realise that kind of existence was there. And we'd beat them. But my dad, he'd drive the abattoirs truck and he'd get all the meat run done so he could arrive normally around half-time or just before half-time of the school game on a Friday afternoon. And this was in the days where everyone was allowed out after lunch to watch the school game, to watch the Year 12s play. So the whole school had lined the oval. You were like rock stars back then. But once I saw the abattoirs truck pull up, I knew time to try. No messing around now.
So your dad was there.
It's time to try.
Turn her on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I liked that existence. I enjoyed it. It was, probably it was a bit egotistical in a way because everything sort of revolved around me and how well I played on the weekend. But it was a footy family, so that's just what we knew, and it sort of evolved from there to playing for Port. My father he always said, I'll buy you a car when you play your first game for Port. So sure enough, I got my first game for Port. I think I was 16, and I just turned 16, so I was allowed to have my licence. And he got me a car, cost $50. It's an old Ford XR. And a mate of his was going to jail for a few years. So he sold Dad the car for $50.
But he didn't need it?
No, he didn't need it. And when I got it home, it had a set of golf clubs in the boot, which was like a free set of golf clubs. But I realised that every club was like a different make. I don't know, he slightly got them from par threes over time. But anyway, he got out early. Got out after a couple of years and he wanted his golf clubs back, but he didn't want the car back.
Didn't want the car back. So how do you end up at Port Adelaide in that state? Do you get a phone call? Do you get a letter? How does that work,
Port Terrier. So Braddles and I were in Port Terrier. They used to send a cab to school to come and pick Braddles and I up. And we'd go to training, Barrels and I, like royalty.
How far's that trip?
It's probably 25 minutes.
Right, in the
down
back
Main
of a
North
cab?
Road. Yeah, treated like royalty.
That is rock star.
And after training, the cab would be ready whenever we were. So Barrels and I, after training, would go up to the Port Footy Club and we'd have 8 glasses of raspberry lemonade and play pool on the giant pool tables till closing time. So the cab would often pick us up at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night and take us home because we just loved playing pool and, we loved the footy club. So we essentially grew up there. So that's how I was in Port's area. So that's how I ended up at Port.
You mentioned feedback earlier on the radio, and you mentioned it's not as brutal as Port Adelaide. What did you mean by that?
So after every game at Port, it was compulsory. You went back to the social club. They'd fit about 500 in there at the social club upstairs, and then one by one, the coach, John Cale or Russell Ebert, would get us up on stage one by one, Dwayne Russell. So we'd get up and he'd say, Dwayne Russell. In front of the 500. And he'd say, Dwayne Russell, 9 kicks, 2 marks, 4 handballs, 1 goal, 4. If you'd have kicked 4 goals, 1, we would have won today. But you kicked 1, 4, not good enough. Make sure you're better next week. Work on your goal kicking. And then you get a round of applause from the members and you'd get off stage. And then it'd be Tim Evans, 9 goals, rah, rah, rah.
Well done to Timmy Evans.
32 possessions. But it was brutal, the feedback back then. That is
brutal.
Absolutely. But that was the kind of accountability. You were accountable to the members. If you didn't play well, or you were not trying hard enough or didn't run or just had a bad day, you're accountable for it. And it was a really good but brutal way of being a 16, 17-year-old growing up in the system, getting an understanding that this was important to people. You're not there to mess around.
And this is my sample history is not amazing, but when obviously Port came into the AFL, it was all, we're a working class club.
Yeah.
We're down at the Port. So I presume they were a rough and tumble supporter base.
Yeah. And then, so it was compulsory to socialise with the members for an hour after. So quite often you had to stay there in the social club. You couldn't just sneak out the back after you were on stage. And quite often the members would say, geez, you were no good today. But also growing up in the Port, everyone followed the footy club. So you'd go and get a sandwich on the Wednesday and someone would say, well, to give you an example, after the 84 grand final, I played really well in the 84 grand final for Port. In some ways I was probably heading for best on ground. And with about 8 minutes to go.
Against
Norwood.
Right.
8 minutes to go, I had a chance to either kick a goal or pass to Tim Evans or Russell Ebert. I did the worst possible thing and split the middle between the two. Craig Baum marks it. Neil Baum is coaching, his brother. Norwood take it down, kick a goal, Norwood win.
So you lose the granny.
We lose the granny, pretty much because I didn't kick the goal or didn't hit a chest. I'm in Fiji 2 Wednesdays after that, and there's a Port fan and comes up to me in Fiji and says, "You're Dwayne Russell, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You cost us the grand final."
Oh.
So, and I'm on a plane not so long ago, a couple of years ago, and I'm sitting in business thinking life's okay. I'm in my 50s and things are going all right. And the hostess says to me, "Excuse me, sir, I've had a note passed to me from a gentleman down the back. Do you mind taking possession of it or not?" And I said, "No, I'll take it." So I get this little note and unfold it like a fortune cookie note, and all it's got written on it is 1984. So it's a Norwood fan, obviously down the back of the plane, remembering exactly what happened. But that's the beauty of the accountability. I mean, I'll get over it one day.
I was about to say one day, Dwayne.
Yeah.
So they were times that shaped you at Port Adelaide. They were good times for you at that football club.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved that kind of. Football was the be-all and end-all. And the Geelong was different. So I get to Geelong and there's people playing for Geelong at the time that were aspiring to be doctors and lawyers and they had bigger lives. I didn't quite understand that. So it was good to get to Geelong when I got to Geelong and understand that there was a bigger world outside of football because that's probably all the world I'd ever lived.
When you need to tell me in this situation when you meet your wife.
Okay.
Have you met your wife at this stage?
Absolutely.
Your wife's name is?
Lisa.
Where did you meet Lisa?
So I've got a friend who has a caravan at Port Elliot. You'd know Port Elliot well.
Yep.
Not far from Middleton. We used to go there and surf at Middleton.
Yep.
Terrible surf, but great Sundays. And one summer, he's there with a friend of his that he likes, and we're teenagers at this stage, 17 years of age, And her friend comes for the holiday in the caravan park too. I meet her. And then, a few months later...
that's Lisa?
Yes, that's Lisa.
So she just can't resist the football god from Port Adelaide?
No, she was very much not a football person.
Okay.
And she didn't have any idea what or who I was. In fact, didn't like me at all, early stages. But I met her then, and then, a few months later, I actually contact my friend. What about that girl? So I become... pretty much in love as a teen, to the point that at lunchtime at Enfield High, I'm getting in my car, driving to Woody High just to meet her for 5 minutes over lunch through the ring wire fence.
So you couldn't actually make contact?
No, there was no contact or anything, no kissing or anything. It was just a quick chat for 5 minutes and then you're back. I used to get the train into...
Is this in the car that your dad bought you?
Yes,
right.
Yes, in the XR. It was a great car too, red with the big black stripes on the bonnet as well.
Nice.
But it was that bad. It was 3 on the tree.
Yeah.
And it was that bad to get jammed in second sometimes. So I'd have to pull over, lift the bonnet, get my foot and jam it back out a second as well through the gear mechanism and then start it up again and go. So it was an old car, but it got to Woody High okay. But quite often we would meet on a Friday. I'd get the train up from Paraka. She'd get the train up from Pennington. And we'd meet at the train station. You know the train station in Adelaide? You know the giant elevator? That
yes.
We'd meet at the top of the elevator on a Friday night. So, so I've been with Lisa ever since.
It's a great story. So you're playing in for Port Adelaide, and obviously you got to Geelong, but there's a famous Escort Cup game where I think you kick a bag. Are you playing on Knights?
Yep, Peter Knights 7.
7.
Yeah, you can Google it. It's on YouTube.
Can we find this vision?
Well,
good.
I knew that there'd be some scouts watching. So it's Port versus Hawthorn. Peter Knights is getting old. He's coming back from injury. He thinks he can ease his way in on a Wednesday night. Oh, I'll just play in the night game and get a couple of kicks. So I've kicked 7 on him, or 6, and then he gets moved. So it was that day that pretty much the phone started ringing after that game. So, but I knew that I had the ability to maybe play in the VFL one day. I felt like I was going to be good enough. But, until you get the phone call. So
how much are you getting paid to play at Port Adelaide?
Oh, I reckon maybe $20 a game.
Oh, so it's a game. $20 a game.
Something like that.
So there's no contract. It's
a contract, but that's what
it's about $20. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, you get a phone call.
Yeah, and Collingwood want me. So
Collingwood.
Yeah. So I come over with Lisa. We come over and we go to a game at Victoria Park.
So what year are we talking now?
Talking 1986 or 85.
Okay.
And we get to a game and we go up, they take us out for lunch at Vlado's.
Oh, that's like the fancy steak place.
Yes. And
so it's a wine and dine operation.
Yeah. They write a few numbers on a napkin.
Yep.
And give me the keys to an RX-7.
They throw in a Mazda RX-7.
And I'll drive it home.
Back to Adelaide.
Yeah. Your house. So it was a whirlwind. And, I'm driving the RX-7 around thinking how good's the world. I'm into the car park at Albert Noble like I'm the king of the world. I got a brand new RX-7 to park in the car park. And then I get a phone call at the end of the 86 season.
Yep.
And
so you're going over to play there in 87?
Yes.
Right.
And then it's Bill McMaster from Geelong. He's their recruiting boss. And he says to me, look, Collingwood don't want you. And I said, what? And they said that they'd rather have Michael Christian and Craig Starcevich on their 2 Form 4s. Every club back in those days got a Form 4 to sign 2 non-Victorian players. They reckon Craig Starcevich and Michael Christian are better, which they were. They don't want you. They want their car back.
They want the car back?
But we want you, and we'll look after you with the car. We'll sort that out. So I said, well, can I think about it? He said, well, don't take too long to think about it. It's back when you got a home phone. There's no mobile phones. You got the phone on your wall of your house. I said, can I call you tomorrow? And Bill says, don't call tomorrow. It's Geelong Cup Day. We'll all be at the Cup. So either call tonight or call in a couple of days' time. So essentially, I went to Geelong.
So what happened to the RX-7?
Geelong sorted that out with Collingwood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I got to keep it. Yeah.
You got to keep the car?
Yeah. That was part of the deal.
So you pull into Geelong in
87.
A start of the 1987 season. So who's the coach at this point?
John Devine.
John Devine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you need to, at this point, start telling me some Gary Ablett stories? Because he's there, I presume.
Yeah, so I get number 6 given to me as the number.
He's 5.
Yeah, he's 5. So I'm in the locker next to Gazza, next to the great Gary Ablett Senior. For 5 years I'm there getting changed next to Gazza. And it was like I was already 21, so I wasn't like a 18-year-old kid. And I already played against men, and I was pretty confident at the time. So I had some pretty good, robust conversations with Gazza about life. I mean, he had the Bibles in his locker, and he'd quite often preach to me or tell me a story or two, and I'd listen. And I actually enjoyed his company. So I enjoyed the company of all of the Geelong players back then. It was a lot of fun to play at the Geelong Footy Club. But as I said, it was a big expansion of my own mind because I didn't quite get that there are people with bigger lives. Their family's more important than football. I didn't quite get that. I didn't understand it. How can that be? Their jobs and their long-term prospects were more important than football. So, yeah, it was an education that I needed.
So when does Malcolm Blight arrive?
So Blighty comes at the end of John was there for 2 years, and I played more games under John than I played under Blighty in 3.
And you're going well.
Well, I'm going okay because I'm playing against guys who are just as good as me. So I'm playing in a forward line with Ablett Senior, Lindner, Brownless, Stoneham.
Wow.
So I'm trying to get a game in that forward line. And I'm centre half forward, but I'm 6'1". So I've come over from Sandford, where 6'1" good enough to play centre half forward. I get here and I'm playing against centre half backs who are just as athletic as me, but they're 6'4". So that's the difference. And I'm trying to get a kick amongst all of these superstars who are also trying to kick goals. So Blighty comes along, and John Devine was great, but he was more a rah-rah motivator. Blighty comes along, he's got all these ideas. Like, here's how we should play. Here's what you should do. Here's the way you lace your boots. Make sure the knot's on the side of your boot, not on the top, because the knot could actually send your drop punt offline slightly.
Makes sense.
That's millimetres of difference with Blighty. If you've got a kick after the siren at quarter time and you can't make the distance from the angle for a goal, kick us a point or take the point. Don't kick it to the top of the square and get nothing. Just kick it inside the behind post and get us a point. We'll take the point. It's at least a score. So little things like, okay, I didn't really, yeah, it's a good idea. So playing under Blighty was just a mind blower. All these ideas, and that was such a good time playing under Blighty, I've got to say. It was so much fun.
What was pre-seasons like?
Well, they were tough, but I liked it. I liked running hard. I liked run till you could throw up. I liked doing weights. That was my life. So I enjoyed it. Some people hated pre-season, but no, footy was what I was about. I came over to play footy. I didn't come over to do a job. I wasn't like doing a day job at that stage. I came over to play footy. So my days would quite often be, I might drive up to Melbourne and meet Braddles, and we'd play 5 sets of tennis from 11 till 3. And then I'd get back to Geelong and go straight to training and then train for 2 hours because it was all about fitness.
Yep.
So I was, doing a lot of wake up in the morning and do a 2 or 3K hard jog or a 7 or 8K slowie around the Geelong racetrack or wherever, or around the Barwon. So, no, I loved it back then, yeah.
And on field, like you mentioned, Brownless, Stoneham, Lindner, there's some superstars of that time. Was Gazza a level above on the footy field?
Yeah, he was like extraordinary. Some days he'd come out, or nights, he'd come out and train, and he would just, in a scratch match, had the ball on a string, doing ridiculous stuff, kicking goals from nowhere, taking screamers, one-handed stuff. He just had an instinct that no other. He knew where the ball drop was before anybody else, so he'd be in position before anybody else. He could read it off the boot. He had this supercomputer as a mind. He knew where the space was, so if all the space was on the left, he'd just make sure he angled his man to the right, and he wouldn't always mark the ball. He'd just knock it into the space, and then he'd go and get it there because he had the freedom in that space area. His mind to be able to calculate ball trajectory, even when it was rolling. He'd sort of know when the ball was trickle, pop. He'd know when the pop was going to happen. So there's very few guys who can ever have that instinct. But if you asked Gazza, how do you do it, he wouldn't be able to tell you. It was just instinct. Yeah.
1989 grand final, you're at the Cats, but you're not playing?
So I play, I think, the first 11 games that year. I'm going all right.
And
in
Geelong's
89.
kicking big scores.
I think in the Mike Sheehan's, well, it wasn't Mike Sheehan back then, it was the top 50 players in the inside footy. I'm like 15
right
at the top 50 players.
So you're flying?
I'm flying that year, and then I do my knee. So I'm out of action. from about round 11 on. And then we make the 89 grand final. And, I'm devastated. But the Geelong Footy Club asked me, can I do all the media stuff, save everybody else doing it? So I do all the radio interviews, all the telly interviews. I write for the Geelong Advertiser. I write an article for the Sunday Age. So all of a sudden I'm thrust into the media and I'm thinking, I can do that. So that's where I got lucky. In 89 I was unlucky, didn't play, but I got lucky.
Did you go and watch the grand final?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wanted them to win. Absolutely.
Right.
In fact, given where I was with my knee, I was hoping there might be 2 draws. A draw and then a draw, and I might be right.
You'd be right for week 3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was a war of attrition, 89 grand final.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
They would have needed me after a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I wanted them to win. It was devastating when we lost.
So how did your AFL career finish?
Well, the Cats at the end of 91 call me in and I get told I'm done. And I said, well, I've got a contract for 92.
And what type of money are we talking now? We're talking about $20 a game. So what have you progressed to now, the category?
It's probably the equal of what is roughly a roughly medium wage or low-end wage back then. So, I was getting probably in the 40s or whatever.
Okay.
So plus a few match payments or incentives on top of that. But they'd paid me in advance some of my base for the next year, 92. But it was back in the days where to actually get my base, I had to make the list. So I always thought there was never any problem with me making the list, but they just told me, well, we just won't put you on the list, and then you don't make the list, and then you don't get your base, and you're not playing next year. So, but I knew I was pretty much cooked. I'd had 11 knee ops. I'd have both my shoulders reconstructed. So my body was cooked. I was 26, and I kind of knew they were right, but they also wanted their money, a bit of their money back.
Oh.
I had to sort of negotiate to not quite pay all of it back. We came to an arrangement. But I loved the club so much. There was no way known I was ever going to fight against them. I mean, they'd given me arguably the greatest 5 years of my life. So why would I dare complain about an ending that I knew was probably relevant because my body was cooked? So, no, I still love that club, even though they asked for a bit of their money back and I had a contract for 92. I could never say a bad word about Geelong Footy Club.
Just before we move on, and you've explained how you've obviously ended up in the media, a lot of the blokes we work with now, you would have played against. So the first thing that pops in your head as a footballer, just trying to think who you would have played with against, you would have played against Gary Lyon?
Yes. Dunstall.
Okay, a word for Gary?
Well, all these guys were down the other end, pretty much. And they wouldn't have known who I was.
Right.
I mean, if you asked them back then who was wearing number 6 for Geelong, they wouldn't have had any idea.
Really?
Yeah, well, I wasn't that big. Geelong fans knew me, but in terms of the overall scale, I was good, but I wasn't great.
So you would have played against Gary, you would have played against Jason, you would have played against Dermot.
Yeah.
Did you play against Gerard?
Yeah, Gerard Healy, absolutely. Right. In fact, some of the better games that I played were against the Swans. Game of the SCG, I played okay. Against the Saints, so Spud, back in those days as well, our old mate Spud. So one of my better games was against the Saints. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story.
Please do.
My grandfather's crook, smoker all his life, lungs are gone, he's in hospital. There's thoughts that if he might not have, might have a couple of years left. So my father says to me, I'm going to bring Grandpa over for the Saints game because Geelong's invited Dad over.
At the Cattery?
Yeah. So I played pretty well against the Saints. I don't know what the stats were, but I took, 15, 16 marks that day. I went okay. So my grandfather's in the social club, not supposed to be drinking or smoking, because that was the rules. He was out of hospital. No drinking, no smoking if you're going to go out of hospital. But he's living like the king. And they're regaling him. You're Dwayne Russell's grandfather. Serve more drinks. And he's having the time of his absolute life, my grandfather. And I'm so proud. Like, I've played a good game. It might be the last game my grandfather ever sees. So I'm really proud. We've won the game, had a great day. My dad takes my grandfather home that night. They're all sozzled, drink responsibly, but they're all sozzled.
Drink responsibly.
And the next day, on the Sunday, Dad drives Grandpa back to Adelaide, and Grandpa says, look, don't take me straight back to hospital. I've got to go to the RSL and brag to all my mates because he hasn't been to the RSL for a while. So he goes to the RSL. Finally, Dad gets him out of the RSL, takes him back to the hospital. Next day, dead.
That's it.
Dies all over. But
happy.
He had a good last couple of days, my grandfather. A good last couple of days. So, yes, cheerio to you, John Senior.
That's a good story. So, you you're doing the interviews for Geelong and it opens a door for you into the media. When you finish footy,
Yep.
did you go straight into the media or did you have another job?
So EJ Whitten was working for K-Rock at the time, and I was doing a little bit of breakfast radio for K-Rock and Bay FM, because from the 89 point on, I realised I can do breakfast radio. So I'm reading the sport news on breakfast radio and joining the breakfast team for like an hour a day.
On K-Rock?
Yes, for 5 years. So I'm doing
Lock it on the rock.
Yes, exactly. And Ted Whitten's working for K-Rock. He's the gun. He's the
you
guru.
got to tell me about
So
Ted.
EJ's working for K-Rock at the time, and EJ, I'm interviewing EJ Monday and Friday on K-Rock for 7 or 8 minutes. He's running K-Rock Footy. He's calling the footy for K-Rock Footy. So EJ's the guru. So I got to sort of do the broadcast with EJ, part of the team, part of the K-Rock team. They've brought me on board. So EJ was a great mentor of mine. You know, as a showman, there was no bigger guy in terms of ex-footballer at the time. There was EJ and Bobby Skilton and Ron Barassi, EJ was Mr. Football, Ron Barassi was Mrs. Football. That's why they used to call each other, Bobby Davis and those guys. So, you know, I got to live in that world for a while, and EJ was fantastic to me. EJ, he and the blokes called the Toolmans had the Argyle Hotel, and I was living across the road from the Argyle, and they were all good friends, and they were in the pub game, and EJ got me to work in a sports store that they had way back when. So I was actually doing a bit of work
So
for EJ, selling
EJ had a
offcuts.
sports store.
Well, the Toolmans had the sports store.
Right.
And they stocked a lot of EJ's Adidas stuff. But it was all the offcuts and stuff that Adidas obviously didn't want anymore. You know, I'd have a person come in to try on a pair of shoes, and they'd say, oh, this is a pair of Adidas Roams. Perfect fit. And I'd be this. And I'd say, okay, do you want to try the other one on? And I'd open the box, and there's no other one. Just one shoe in the box. So, sorry, I can't. And I said, EJ, how am I going to sell one shoe? Oh, someone will come in. So
It might be a one-legged dude rolls in.
there was also a bloke called Peter Burnett who had the Lord of the Isles, so a big publican. And EJ would occasionally say to me, look, can you come over to the Lord of the Isles and do a lunch for us at 12:30? And I'd say, EJ, the game starts at 2:10. I'm playing. And EJ would say, no one would know. Just come over to the pub. Come in, get your socks and everything on.
Pre-game?
Pre-game. Put your pants back on. Come over to the Lord. Do 15 minutes for me. And I'd get through the Lord for 15 minutes at 12:15. And
With your socks on?
Yeah, pretty much. Everything by the birth, shorts underneath, and then go back and strip the dacks down and run out and play. Because if EJ asked you to do something, you did it. The first time I really met EJ, I was wearing Diodora boots, and EJ was the boss of Adidas. And EJ came up to me and said, son, because I'd just arrived, you can't wear Diodora here. We're Adidas here, Geelong. And I said, well, I love the Diodora. It's kangaroo hide. They're beautiful, soft boot. And he said, you're not wearing them. So I blacked out the logo of the Diodora and wore them the next week, blacked out. And the next Wednesday or Tuesday, I get to training and all my boots are gone from my locker. And they've been replaced by Copamundials and there's 2 garbage bags, big garbage bags of Adidas gear, tracksuits, T-shirts.
For you?
Yeah. So as of then, EJ comes up to me at training and says, you're Adidas now. So he said, if you need a specially fitted pair of Copamundials, we'll get them specially made for you. Whatever you need, we'll sort you out. So I was a Adidas Copamundial man from that time on. And
So
I was
good.
kind of friends with EJ because, EJ was a mover and shaker back then. I mean, if Steffi Graf came to town for the Australian Open, EJ would be the one to pick her up from the airport, all that kind of stuff.
Really?
He was bigger than big. But in terms of broadcasting, there was no bigger showman. I mean, EJ, Eddie Maguire, these guys were all about putting on an extravaganza, and that was something that I learned pretty quick.
So how do you what's the first game of football you broadcast as a caller?
So there's a guy called Rob Gaylard.
Oh,
and
he's a Channel 10 man,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yeah, guru. So in 1991, Blighty, I'm coming back from an knee injury, and Blighty says to me, if you kick a few in the twos this week, we'll play you. Semi-final, Waverley Park. Kick a few in the twos, and we'll play you next week. So I kicked 9 in the twos. So I'm pretty confident in my own skin that I'm getting a game. And I get in the spa, as you normally did on a Thursday night. Blighty's in there, and there's about 8 blokes in there.
Oh, the coach is in the spa
Oh,
with
yeah,
you?
absolutely. Blighty was great. So we'd all sit in the spa, and I sort of elbow Blighty. I said, 9, I'm in. And he looks at me and he says, actually, I reckon Waverley's a bit too big a ground for you.
Oh.
You've slowed a bit. I reckon Waverley's a bit too big. And I said, well, here's me, smart-ass Dwayne. Says, by dimension, Waverley's exactly the same size as the MCG and most other grounds. And he says, yeah, most grounds are too big for you, aren't they? So that was pretty much when I knew I was cooked in Blighty's eyes.
Right.
But he had a subtle way of doing it in a nice way. And Rob Gaylard rings me and says, there's a game Mafra are playing in the Gippsland Grand Final.
Mafra?
Yeah.
That's up my neck of the woods, that is.
Is that in the Gippsland?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So he
would have
says,
been in the LVFL,
Yeah.
Coast Valley Football League.
yeah, I need a co-caller. Can you come up and do it with me? And I said, well, I've never called a game of footy before. He said, yeah, but you've been doing radio. You know what you're talking about. You've been working with EJ. You should know the ropes. EJ reckons you're okay. So Robbie Gaylard takes me up to this Mafra Grand Final, and I get there, and it's the muddiest, wettest day you've ever seen.
Well, and you're not going to know anyone.
I don't know anyone. All I've got is the names and numbers.
And it's muddy, so you
and
can't
it's muddy.
sit there back.
So everyone, by about 3 minutes in, everyone looks the same.
His old mate takes it down the wing from
Well, that
Mafra.
was the first game I ever called. I called a women's grand final at Box Hill that year as well for Sky Sports.
Huh.
So they called me in to do that. So, I did a few games like that. And then EJ got crook. So I started calling the footy for K-Rock.
For K-Rock.
Yeah.
And then the move into television.
Yep.
Is that with Channel 9?
So I'm working for the ABC at the time. And ABC had this rule that you couldn't do commercial TV and ABC radio.
What are you doing at ABC?
So I'm doing the traineeship, 5-year traineeship at the ABC.
5 years?
Yeah, so I did. Yeah, so I got the call.
So you're doing what a grounding. You're doing all sorts there.
At one stage, they said to me, Bradman's looking ill. You do need to do the Bradman obit. So you need to ring around, call, Ian Chappell, all these people, get some stuff down on tape. So if Bradman passes away, we've got a 1-hour obituary to put to air straight away. So I had to ring around and do the Bradman obit. It's one of the things that I was asked to do as a trainee. So, but they'd also send me and Clinton Gribus out to one of the most beautiful grounds.
The Albert.
The Albert to ground.
That is
they'd
a
send
cricket ground.
Clinton Gribus to sit on a pew behind the bowler's arm and call over for over, bring the tape recorder back after an hour or two, and then I'll have a listen and I'll critique you on it. So that's where I first got to learn to call cricket because Peter Booth was the boss back then, and he'd say, yeah, no, not enough light and shade. You need to call. It's a bit like you're a car in traffic. Sometimes you need to be slow and methodical. Sometimes you need to hit the accelerator and go. When there's a big moment, hit the accelerator, overtake a few cars. That was where I learned about light and shade in commentary and speed of the cadence in commentary. And I learned that with football as well from Peter Booth at the ABC. So all of that stuff, if I didn't work with the ABC, I probably wouldn't have known because all the rest of the stuff was just thrust into the deep end stuff.
Well, but you don't get that grounding now.
You don't. No.
I've never had anything like that where people say this is the way you commentate the sport.
Which is the beauty that I had, that upbringing. I also had 5 years on radio, really, at K-Rock that no one heard. So when I got to the ABC, I also had 5 years of radio behind me. But
so how do you end up on the telly?
So Cos Cardone is a big Port fan. And Channel 9's got a footy show on a Sunday. And Cos says, I need some guys to come and do match reports on a Sunday after having seen the Saturday game, come in and just do a match report. So I knew Cos because he was a Port man and Cos knew I was working in the media. So I went and did the Channel 9 Sunday footy show for a few years, working with all the gurus, Brendan Gale and all those guys were there back then, sitting on the panel. And then 9 got the footy rights for 5 years. So, I was thrust into this rock star group of superstar broadcasters, Eddie, Dennis Committee. Yeah, I was part of that group, it was real rock star TV. So we got things like, well, Craig Kelly was a manager, and I presume, he said, I'll do the negotiations. And he came back day one and said, here's what I reckon, here's what they've offered. I'll get you more, don't worry, I'll get you. And I said, hey, you're signing now. Go back in there in 10 minutes' time and sign now. He said, no. I
Ned wouldn't do that.
Ned, sign now. I'm taking that. So there was petrol card, unlimited petrol on your petrol card. We used to get $5,000 a year for a suit or two because Eddie would get the Armani suit. I'd go to Polo Ralph Lauren with my $5,000 and get 400 T-shirts. So you'd get a holiday at the end of every year for two, anywhere in Australia you wanted to go.
Really?
So, yeah, it's your end of year bonus.
What part of the plane were you flying on?
No, well, actually, I think we're pretty much business all the way back in those days.
I don't know if our current boss, Steve Crawley, the great man, often listens to this podcast, but Crawls, if you're listening to this, I think the end of season holiday sounds good. Not that there is a season now between footy and cricket, but
So I was thrust into this rock star where it was all about the show. Nine, made sure they took television footy to a whole new level. And
entertainment.
Yeah, I got to learn about entertainment on TV. The call was critical, had to get the call right, but the whole bells and whistles around it was big. And Eddie was huge, working with Eddie, working with Dennis Committee. So it'd pretty much be Dennis, myself and Derm every second Sunday off to the SCG to do the game. We'd meet at the airport. We'd get the hire car. Hilarious days. Like the days were so much from go to woe. You'd almost to the end of it, I'd arranged for my business class seat not to be where Derm was because I'd get to the game, I had no voice. I'd be laughing so much and talking and chatting, not have no voice left. So you'd almost have to not sit next to Derm because it was hilarious. And Dennis was so much fun to work with as well. So, yeah, those were the days. Yeah, they were good. But to be honest, Fox has taken it to a different level, I reckon. And
what way?
You and I work for Fox now.
We're very lucky.
I think we are very lucky in terms of the expansion of football. So the call is important to Fox and the show is important for Fox. But I think the Nine were like, you might only be in it for 5 minutes. So let's live it up and go for it. You might never see these blokes again. Whereas I feel like Fox is the family that you're married into long term. So the relationship between everyone, the bosses, all the on-air staff, I think the relationship thing is something where you feel like, and I have been there for a while now, and you have been as well. I feel like from day one it was like you're joining the family. We're going to have the footy forever, and let's really make sure that everyone's. It's almost like a, no dickheads policy in a way at Fox. Whereas at 9,
it is.
At 9, I think it was about the showmanship and the big personalities, and let's just go and get the biggest and the best, and it didn't matter what else was happening. Whereas I think at Fox it's just overall big group of people. No dickheads policy, and we're in it together as a family. And, there had to be love for each other. There's no one cooking each other, no one making, poking fun at someone's mistake. So it's a big organisation, but I feel like it's a little family at Fox Footy, part of the biggie.
I've never worked at an organisation where there's so much teamwork and positivity and you just roll up, whether it's footy or cricket, thinking this is going to be fun, we're very privileged to be in that position.
It's a beautiful thing when your bosses are that damn interested in what you're doing. That's the beauty of Fox as well.
That's a great description. All right, the mechanics of calling football. What do you reckon the key is to calling a game of footy, Dwayne?
I think there is a lot, and this is just the way I do it.
Yep.
So I think there is a lot to the light and shade and the speed and the cadence of what you do. In that is you have to, every now and then hit someone between the eyes, but you also have to understand that they're listening to you for the whole day. So the ability to shut up is also a big part of it. Giving space to your special comments guys. But no, not everyone does it the way I do it, and I wouldn't ever say that the way I do it is better or worse. But I think the thing that I learned from EJ and Eddie and, all those people that have gone before me, Dennis, is find your way, and hopefully your bosses will think it's a good way. So, yeah, I might put too much mayo on it occasionally. I might try and convince people that 5 goals, the difference with 4 minutes to go, is a gettable lead.
Well, it is when you're St Kilda.
Yeah, it is, exactly. Because every now and then you're proven right.
Yes.
That the game's never over. So, yeah, I try to make sure that I'm pretty much in the moment as much as possible and trying to nail the moments just like everybody else are doing. But I probably do it with an over-the-top, too much mayo way at times.
So are you using AI at all?
No.
Okay.
I'm not an AI guy.
So when you type in, give me 8 or 9 Dwayne Russell famous expressions.
Oh, right. This will be interesting.
Right. So after a long goal or big goal, even if it stays in the stadium, Dwayne will say, "Out of the stadium.
Well, that's out of here is something that I do, or that's in the Torrens. I suppose that's on there as well. So I embellish it. It's not just out of here. If it's at the Adelaide Oval and it's at the River End, that's in the Torrens. So, yes, that's the kind of silly mayo I put on it. But again, in my commentary style, as we know, all I have to do is call the good stuff. I call the goal, I call the mark, I call the good stuff. All I'm employed to do, really, in my style is call the great thing and try and call it well. I don't have to talk about the guy should have spoiled.
No.
Or the guy should have smothered, or the guy should have tackled. Leave that to the other guy. So I've got the perfect job. I just have to call the good stuff well and leave the nasty stuff to the others. So I suppose, hopefully it's all good stuff on there.
Well, put your glasses on. I'll get you to read the next one down. So that is one you typically use.
Crazy good. Yeah, I don't use that a lot anymore.
That one there, I hear you
from
use.
the paint.
From the paint?
Yes, that's true. That's on my
a
big card.
Dwayneism.
Yep. I have never said turns it over like pancakes.
Well, see, this is where you got to be careful with
never said
ChatGPT.
that.
But I hear you say this.
Yep. From outside the arc?
Yes.
That's true.
This I hear you say, that one with the dots in between it.
This is crazy good.
There you go.
Yeah, I've said that.
I hear
crazy
you say
good.
that one.
Yeah.
What you are is a very generous broadcaster, though. I love calling with you for lots of reasons, and we're going to talk about your pre-game approach in a moment. But you call in short, sharp bursts. You're a handover quickly man. And we did a game, I don't know, a third of the way through the year. And after every stoppage, you'd tap me or I'd tap you. And I really got into your rhythm of turning it over, changing it very quickly. And also what you do is very generous. If Sydney is taking out of the back line, heading towards goal, when it gets to wing, you'll tap me and get me to call it going inside 50. Now, there's very few broadcasters that do that. And I work with Matty Hill now on a Thursday night. And I said, you know what? I reckon this template Dwayne rolls with. Now, seriously, you listen to us call on Thursday now. I said, one, I think it's very generous to your fellow co-caller, but because he swaps so quickly every 15 or 20 seconds, less chance of a cock-up, because the longer you call, I think the more chance you are of stuffing something up.
I agree with that.
But it's also really pacey.
Yep.
So that everyone I call with now, especially on a Thursday night, I try and implement your stoppage, turnover, change from the wing, turnover. And I've found it really has helped me commentate the football. Yeah,
well, I think sometimes, I'm agreeing with you, but sometimes I think people can get sick of your voice. And I think sometimes in the past, maybe there's been people who default to, want to call the big moments. And that's great. I want to call the big moments too, but I'm happy to have other people call the big moments. The other week, Kelly Underwood called the big moment, the climax, the end of the St Kilda Melbourne. Yeah. And I was so wrapped with the way Kel called it. It was a great moment.
It was.
But it was a great moment for not only a woman commentator to call it, but she called it so well. So I love working with all the people. Yourself, Kel, Matty Hill, Hutto. So I enjoy the flow to be right as well, in the commentary. So hopefully that does work for a few people. Might not work for everyone, but obviously it works for us.
Oh, my word, it does. Now, I need to hold this up to camera. So this is a half of your sheet normally because you have another part of your A3, but I always get, when I first started working with you, to be honest, Dwayne, I was a bit mentally psyched out because I'd look at the preparation and the detail and the magnificence of this artwork, and I'd have 4 scratch notes. I think, geez, I need to lift my game here.
No.
But so this is the players. Each player, so why do players have a different colour highlight? So
blue,
Hamling and Jordan are in blue.
Yeah, blue often players that come from another club.
Right. And then the highlighted, like the green fluorescent, Papley, Heaney, Wicks.
Yeah, they're probably the excitement machines. Blakey, Papley, Heaney, Wicks. The big excitement machines, pretty much.
And then you've got Warner and McCartan are both in orange fluorescent.
Yeah, McCartan, and Marty could well be in orange. The guys often with orange are the guys that could take a big mark.
Right.
So the big screamer. So I'm sort of guys that, with a lot of the way, so people think I've got things written down, right? So, before I commentate, I might have this line or that line written down. It's more a case of I pre-plan. So you know how athletes will visualise?
Yes.
So I've often got a lot of ideas in my own mind. What happens? So I do the pre-planning in my mind. What if the game's close? What would I say if the game's close? What would I say if it's a draw? What am I going to say if it's 10 goals the difference with 2 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go? Do I have enough stories to go with to try and make it entertaining at that time? What do I say if this guy pulls down the mark of the year? You know, that could happen too. So I often visualise things. So it's almost a pre-visualised idea in my mind as to what I might say if this occurred. So, yeah, with the colours, I kind of know, well, if Hamling gets it, and it takes a lot of time, I can go through Hamling's backstory, recruited by Geelong. You know, he's had the long way around, but here he is. He gets to 100 games finally. So that might be a highlight for me to just remind me of his story. I've got that story in my mind, but sometimes I need a cue to get me into that story.
Got you.
So if I've written it down, then it's in my mind. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff, you don't have everything that I've written down there is written down so as I'm writing it, it gets stored. But, yeah, a lot of it is pre-planned in my head as to what might happen scenario-wise. I do a bit of, like coaches do, scenario training. What if this guy kicks 4 goals in the first quarter? What do we do then?
I've never thought of it like that. In cricket, I find there's a lot more time to think. So
Yeah.
if Smithy's on 90 and you've just started commentary, in the next half hour, he's probably going to bring up his 100. So between overs, I don't like to have a pre-plan, but you have sort of something, a general, okay, well, I'll generally say this. But I find that doesn't happen in footy. But the first time I needed it, and I didn't have it, was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was doing Geelong North, and Jeremy Cameron kicked 11.
Yes.
And by the time he kicked 7, I had time in my mind to think, I'm running out of things to say here.
Yes.
And it was obvious to me that he was going to kick more and more goals. And I'm starting to scramble thinking, how do you say Jezza has kicked another goal to keep it entertaining when the numbers keep stacking up?
Yeah, well, Taylor Walker was the same for me a year ago when he kicked 10. He's on 8. What am I going to say if he kicks 10? I mean, 10's a big milestone. So, it was something that it wasn't great, but, the Texas 10.
That is good, though.
Yeah, but
Just need that little bite.
Yeah, but it was sort of run through my mind before it. And I don't want to pump myself up, but there was a moment with Patrick Cripps when he was in full flight, when he was playing really well, and he was the Superman for Carlton. He was unstoppable. And I was, thinking about Carlton Superman and, they couldn't tackle him at that stage, hanging off him like a cape, that kind of stuff. And then about 10 minutes before the game, we're just chatting. I'm not too sure who the special comments guy working for us was, but they were talking about who's going to stop him, what's his kryptonite. And that's when it got into my mind. Kryptonite, that's a good one. So then you need the scenario to happen. So that's when, I got lucky with Patrick Cripps kicking that goal. Carlton Superman, they're hanging off him like a cape. There's no kryptonite for Cripps tonight. So you do need the scenario to happen, but you also need to be able to have the words maybe sometimes. Other commentators do it differently, but the way I have it, sometimes you just need a bit of stuff stored, ready to go in case,
Give me a couple of moments, whether they be your call or a football moment, that stick out in your mind out of, however many games.
Yeah, to me, it's the moments that I get early. So there's been a couple of marks where I've got him early. I've seen the guy on his 3 or 4 step run up.
And you know he's coming.
And I know he's coming. He's had an unimpeded run. He's a big mark specialist. So, the Birdman Burton, Liam Jarrah, a few of those marks. The Wingard mark as well.
Oh, we just hung and hung and hung.
Yeah. So I could see it coming. And that's where I was ready to go. And it's not about my call. It's just about doing the moment justice. These guys
that's what you want to do, don't you?
That's all you want to do. It's not about me being, being able to be Googled. It's just about doing this guy justice. He's taken his greatest mark of all time.
And you've got the chance to, it's just another mark, or you can elevate your commentary to the level to meet the mark or the performance.
Don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Don't underdo it. No, I enjoy it. I love it.
You're my favourite, and I don't know how this could have come to you. Draper grabs it out of the middle.
Yep.
And runs forward, gets a forward hand pass, receives it, goes inside 50, ducks around someone, kicks the goal. And I'll get it wrong, but you were along the lines of slice, dice, and entice. Now, have you got some thought of that, or is that just popped into your head and it was perfect?
Well, slice and dice is something that has been heard before. I mean, a lot of the stuff I go with, it's not like I've made it up. It's just stuff that I've heard.
But to have the presence of mind, slice, dice, entice in that moment.
Yeah, I think I went with enticed first. But yeah, because that's what he did. He enticed them. No, that was just probably luck. But I am one that I listen to a lot of songs, a lot of music. So some of those they're almost song lyrics in my mind. The rhyming kind of song lyric in my mind. So, yeah, maybe I was just lucky I had those words stored. But there's a lot of great song lyrics that I've probably woven into commentary that haven't been mine. So, yeah, I got lucky with that. But that's another moment where I'm just glad I was good enough to make the moment okay.
What's been your biggest cock up in commentary?
Oh, look, I know if I've got a name wrong in the commentary because it sits with me for days.
Yeah, it burns, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you get a name wrong.
Because no one says, well, good, there was 684 players you called in that game. They just send you a message, you
hurts.
called such and such.
Yeah, that really hurts if I get a name wrong. Yeah, little silly things like the coin toss instead of the coin toss. Things like that where you think...
That's not a good one.
Hello, welcome to great to have your company wherever you're watching around the planet. Great to have you with us for the coin toss. So there's some things like that where you think, you idiot. Come on, you're better than that.
I was calling the cricket the other night, right? And it was game 2 of the T20 International, and we're in Darwin, right? And we're at Marara. And I'm like, I don't know why. All of a sudden, Monica popped into my head, which is Canberra, but I didn't call it.
Yep.
Monica, I was welcome to Marara here in beautiful, warm Canberra because I had buddy straight away. You've got to get straight back on centre. Otherwise, your next mistake is in the next sentence, isn't it?
Yeah. So sometimes I just put a big texter mark on my arm or on my sheet, and first thing you do is you watch that back. Yeah. When you get home, you got to watch it back.
Do you watch it back?
I watch all my games back.
Do you really?
Because sometimes if I say fantastic 3 times in a quarter, I don't know it.
No, you don't.
I'm going to watch it back and realise, wow, didn't I overuse that word?
Yeah.
Don't use that. Don't overuse that.
You'll sit back.
Yeah, I watch them all.
And is that comfortable or uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable a lot of the time.
Right.
But I feel like I've got to watch it back because I am one that can overuse a word without knowing it.
But it's easy to do, isn't it?
It is easy to do, but you don't want to do it 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row. So if I do it on a Saturday game and I watch it back on a Saturday night, well, at least I won't do it on a Sunday. So there might be some things that I've said as well that I think, oh, that was terrible. That doesn't work. What was I thinking there? And I watch it back and it's not as bad. But there's other things that I watch it back and think, wow, I'm not going to get over that. I can't wait to call the next game the next week because it sits with me all week. But that's the beauty of, I still get nervous before a game. Yeah. It's still as big a show to me as it ever has been.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tommy, can you just grab us a quick drink, mate? We're just, Dwayne's got his coffee there. So we're going to have just a bit of refreshment here. We're going to have a refreshment.
Yes.
So you need to tell the people, Dwayne, what Tommy has delivered for us.
Yep.
What's he brought in?
I'm a big milk drinker. I drink milk during the commentary. I drink milk all day, every day.
So watching you call football, and I've seen it through the radio box, so Dwayne has got a big 2-litre here. I've seen it beside, but now I've had the great privilege. How's the milk, mate? Is it good?
Full cream.
Are you happy with the full cream?
Full cream is such an indulgence. Yeah, because I'm normally a light guy. I love a good milk, and the full cream is it's like having a cake for me. Dessert. You could have brought in a muffin, but the full cream milk's better.
So it went viral because you were sitting next to Jared, and he was calling a big game of football, Jared Waitley on SEN, and all of a sudden you were just calmly pouring your milk, which is what you've done now. So when I sit next to you, you need to. He's going.
I'll go again. Well, it's a long podcast.
It is. You have an assortment of sometimes I look at you and I see what you have ready to eat and drink during a game of football, and I think this could be the last game of football I ever do with Dwayne because I'm not sure he's going to survive the week. Just give and don't cut it down. Give me a description, because if you don't do it, I will do it, of what you have next to you before you call a game of footy.
So normally a Coke per quarter can. Sometimes I'll start the broadcast with a Red Bull.
A Coke per quarter?
Normally, well, so I'll try and get through with just the 3, but hey, some games are so big they're a 4 Coke game. You know, those four Coke games are massive. A family block of caramello.
Yes. Would you normally get through that?
Oh yeah, normally.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes depends on who I'm calling with, because sometimes Matty Hill will pinch a few squares. Kel's always good for a whole row. Right. So family block of caramello or peppermint. You can't have something with nuts in it because they get stuck in your teeth. You need something that's quickly chewable.
This is the preparation this man
So
does.
yes, that's why even the hard chocolate, the full family block of dairy milk you can't go with because it takes a bit of chewing. So you need something that's down
You have
quickly.
sort of little bars as well.
I do the 12s.
The
yeah.
12, the 12.
Yeah, normally
the 12.
2 or 3 12s. I used to be a flake guy, but if flake got everywhere, it's like all over my call sheet.
Created
bits of flake.
like no. That's how the old flake one went. So we're talking blocks of chocolate. We're talking 3 or 4 Cokes of Red Bull, and you have your milk there.
I do.
That probably offsets the chocolate nicely.
Well, and then I go home though, and I'll watch the game back on the treadie. So I might walk 5K on the treadie.
I think you need to walk 45K, Dwayne, to keep going.
I might have, but I might fast on a Tuesday.
Right.
So have a whole day of eating nothing at all or just an orange or
But at what
just an
point of
apple.
the game are you like, okay, I probably have got enough sugar in the system now?
Yeah, there is a point where I think I've maybe overindulged in the
point.
sugar. Yeah, there is a point at that. But it's often in the car on the way home. And I'm thinking, geez, I'm hyped up here.
No
You're
shit,
jittery.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
Of course you're a bit jittery,
Put the
man.
speed limiter on, and, 'cause I'm driving like I've just watched 4 hours of Bathurst.
Is there, if you could choose one event in world sport,
Yep,
what to call, what are you going for?
I'm happy with an AFL grand final.
You're happy with an AFL
Yeah,
grand
something
final?
about the AFL. It's my sport. Like it'd be nice to call a final hole of a Masters but I think it's my sport, the AFL. It's in my blood. I grew up playing it. As we mentioned, my father was a footballer, my grandfather was a footballer. So I'm happy with my little world. I don't necessarily feel like it'd be great to, call the Super Bowl or they're big events.
So you love the
going
footy.
to them, but there's just something about footy that just keeps me coming back. So I'm glad it's in my blood. I'm glad I'm not sick of it after calling whatever amount of games. I'm glad I've never grown tired of watching it, even the dud games. I get a lot of games that are lopsided.
Yeah.
Games that there's only 7,000 there and it's 10 goals the difference and you feel like, well, maybe no one at home's watching.
But Mark of the Week could be in the next passage
That's
of play.
exactly
Mark
right.
of the year.
Yeah, could be about to call the
Gary
biggest...
Moorcroft could pop up.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the game of footy in a way, is that something crazy like the St Kilda comeback. There's always, you just got to concentrate because you're right. The next moment could be the biggest moment you've ever called in your life.
So you're doing something you really love, aren't you?
I do.
I hope people
Yeah.
understand in
No,
your
I do.
voice how much you love it.
And if I had the choice, if someone said to me, if Fox said, oh, well, the Super Bowl's on grand final week, do you want to go over and call that? Or there's the biggest, boxing event of all time, in Vegas. Do you want to go and call that? I'd still probably say, no, I'm happy with the grand final. That'll do me. Yeah, I loved it. It's never grown tired on me. It's getting better, the game, in many aspects in my world. It was great in the 70s, fantastic in the 80s, loved it in the 90s. But, 2025, if there's a game on, I'm happy to go and watch it and broadcast it.
Just before I get to our final question, something you told me, and I've told a few people this because I think it is outstanding, whether you're happy to tell the audience this, but you come the end of the season, and we could speak for hours about travel because it's a passion of both of ours. I probably couldn't match your passion for music. But you have a family rule around your holidays, which to me is one of, again, the quirky things I love about you, but one of the greatest things I've ever heard. My kids aren't at this age yet, but I'm thinking about when they get to this age, implementing it. I want you to tell people, so the season finishes,
Yes.
and you open your wallet to an extraordinary amount to your family, but there are a few preconditions.
Yes, so my daughter is 25, my son's 29. The rule for the last 15 years or so, which is easy to implement when they're teenagers, is that every November or October we go away on a family holiday. So you have to give me a couple of weeks, leave your partners home, which is tough.
Because this is the bit I want to get to. So you pay for everything.
I pay for it all.
But
now, there
the
was
partners-
a moment about 10 years ago when my son put his foot down and said, we went business class last year. We're never travelling economy again. So that's been a rule that's been implemented. If he's going to leave his partner home, we travel business.
So this leaving the partner.
Yeah.
This is the bit that really caught my attention. So so one of your children can be madly in love,
They'll be,
but they can't bring the partner on your part where you're paying of the holiday?
Well, sometimes the partner, they've been together for 5 years. You know, and the partner has to be left home. So this is just the family holiday. Now, when one of them get married, that's going to be an interesting one because they're getting to that stage.
Are you going to say you can't bring your wife or your husband?
Then they'll officially be family. So that will be a dilemma. Well, they're officially family now.
An expensive dilemma.
Yes, even though my daughter's partner and her, they've been together a long time now. They live together. They've got a dog. They work together. But no, we've got another family holiday booked at the end of this season, and he can't come. So but they know the rules. Well, when they join the family, they know the rules. Every October,
join the family, mate. They're part. You don't join the family.
So yes, that's the rule, and we go overseas every year. And I do like spending the money I earn. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what for me, that's what it's for. I go to work because I love it and because it pays me enough to be able to go on some bloody great holidays.
So I'm a bit of a roomophobe as well. So it's got to be, 4 or 5-starer.
Yep.
So, I'm paying for multiple rooms here. So my daughter and my son don't have to share a room, that kind of stuff. So,
and your flying business.
Flying business. Yes, we always get picked up at the airport. We don't, we're not if we go to a...
You're not an Uber guy?
Well, it depends on which country. We're going to China or, Hong Kong or Singapore or... Depends on where we're going. But no, I'm not always an Uber guy. Because if I'm on the end of a long flight,
yes,
I like someone to meet me with a sign saying Russell. It's like I've just got off 15 hours in the air and I don't necessarily want to get in an Uber queue with 45 other people and stand there for an hour. I've done that. I've been to too many Cox Plates where you've walked out after the last and there's 100 people waiting for 3 Ubers. So, no, I like someone to be standing there with a sign saying Russell. So, yes, that's the rule every year. So you're going to implement that rule with your kids?
Well, they obviously don't have partners. They're 15 to 13, but I'm going to bring this in. Dwayne, we always finish this podcast the same way, and this is a fantastic episode. I'm worried, though, before I get to this, Killing for Sport is the book. If it goes truly global and you become this avant-garde author of great renown and all of a sudden you're in the New York Times and, you're going to these literary shows, we're not going to lose you at Fox Footy, are we?
No, I'll be sticking around. There's footy on.
Okay.
Hopefully, if Fox want me to call it, I'll be calling it. But hopefully this is the first of a few books. So if Killing for Sport goes well...
Have you started the second one?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Is it a follow-on or is it completely different?
Yeah, it's going to be a follow-on, I think.
Okay.
But the way it's evolving, it could be either. But no, it's already shaping... the beauty of it, Howie?
What's that?
They're going to take a long time to fix the Westgate roadworks. So I've got a lot of think time sitting in my car. Mate, a lot of think time. And these stories are just blowing my mind at the moment. So, no, there'll be a second book. But buy the first one if you can, please.
Don't start me on politics, but they're telling us October, but it's already 3 times the budget and 6 times longer. So I reckon by the time they finish it and open it, you'll get your full Harry Potter 7 J.K. Rowling series in. Yep. Dwayne, you've had so much success in your life across various fields. You're about to become successful as an author, as a footballer, as a broadcaster, as an implementer of the family holiday with a few strings attached. We have a lot of kids listening to this, which we're very privileged, that love their sport or the things they're into, their passions that they're hoping to achieve something in. It might be to be an author or it might be to be a scientist or a pianist or an AFL footballer. From your experience and the success you have, what advice would you pass on?
Don't be afraid to fail. Yeah, if you're an artist, whether that's, you're right, a singer-songwriter, a book writer or a broadcaster, not everyone's going to like you. Don't be afraid to put something out there and fail. And that's the thing. You can always go again. Someone's going to knock you back. And I think that's the bottom line for life in general, isn't it? You're not going to get everything right. So, I haven't got everything right, but the beauty is I'm now kind of going to be assessed in my next thing as an author.
Yeah.
But if I was afraid to fail, I wouldn't have put a book out there. So here we go. And can I say I'm privileged to know you, Howie, in terms of great people on the planet. You're up there, and it's nice to broadcast with you. So thanks for inviting me in today.
Let's do another game of footy soon.
Yep.